We're going to review the cast off with a contrast piece of yarn. Once you created double E wrap or double U wrap on your pegs, and that is in case you're using both sides of your looms and you have this long strands of yarn in between the pegs, you simply lay the contrast piece of yarn on top of the strands, put it through the opening in the loom, and here it is. You can pull it a little bit and it just stays there. So then once you put the contrast yarn on your strands, you continue creating stitches, your rib or rib with cable, or whichever one you're working on, brioche rib, would work the same way. On a regular rib, meaning the rib that had normal number of stitches, for example, the rib with cables that we just finished, you're going to take your hook and you're going to pick up the first stitch with your hook. Let me go to my smaller hook. And then the second one, and the second one will go through the first. And then each next stitch goes through the previous stitch. If they become a little bit tight, you can pull it. And you're going to continue that same operation from the first stitch to the last stitch. You can pull them if they become a little bit tight. On this particular swatch, it's not loosely knitted, so it might be a little tight. Then you simply pull your stitch if necessary. So originally you might see this, the fabric very stretched out, but as you pull together the stitches on the bottom, it should help a great deal. So you're gonna go all the way from one end to the other end, creating a crochet finish on the bottom of your swatch. And by the time you're done, you're gonna see that you pulled together, you organized your fabric very nicely. So what you need to remember when you start that whole step, that you need to start on the side opposite of your last end of yarn. I started on this side and now I'm at my last end of yarn, which goes through the last stitch. And then just to keep it a little bit more secure, I might weave it in a little bit through the fabric and leave it. The provisional yarn here, the provisional piece of yarn, simply comes out. And then for your picture, don't forget you can trim these long ends to 3 inches, and don't forget to hide all the ends of fabric and just take a picture of the swatch where it looks very finished and clean. On the brioche, it's slightly different. Again, we're going to start on the side opposite of last end of yarn, but we're going to pick up 2 stitches every time, because remember how brioche had 2 stitches always on one side, and you created every step with the 2 stitches at a time. So here we simply have too many stitches. So I'm going to start from 2 stitches, and then I'm going to grab the next 2 stitches, put it through the first 2. So every time you do exactly the same step, only it's always 2 stitches at a time. And again, they should be very visible because we separated it with the contrast yarn. So you have to do it beginning to end, always the same way. And as you completing this step, you're going to see also that even brioche stitch is puffy and as bulky as it is, looks very controlled. So that finishing step is absolutely necessary. Almost done here. Last one, and at the end, same. you're going to grab the last end of stitch, the last piece of yarn, the last tail of yarn, put it through the last stitch, and then just weave it in a little bit through the fabric to make sure that it doesn't get unraveled. Provisional yarn comes right out, and you should be able to see nice crochet finish on the bottom, nice crochet finish on the top, ends of yarn laid over the swatch, and then for your picture everything looks completely perfect and neat.